And I thought to myself, I'm going to prove my wife wrong that this Jack Bosch is not putting a good product out there. And I, like usual, was wrong. And I remember my exact words. I said, if someone could come up with something that I could use that would save me mailers and keep my deal flow, I would love it. He said, I'm a computer engineer, a data scientist. Let's talk about this. We enhance the data to allow people to have anywhere between 7 and 10 times savings on their mailers while maintaining their deal flow.
All right, then, welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show, where we talk about all things finance, real estate, and wealth creation. Today, I have a friend of mine here, Fred, who runs Reworked.ai, which is a data enhancement company for real estate investors. Now, Fred and I met in a really kind of strange way. First of all, he knew me already, but I was at a conference. And I was at the real estate conference, and I walked to the vendors' booths, and I stopped by Reworked, and Fred is like, "Oh, Jack Bosch," and it's like, "Okay." So I'm not used to people knowing me at all. Like, I know we have 100-something thousand followers, and across the different platforms, it's like close to 500,000 followers or so. But I'm still not used to being recognized or so anywhere. So. And then originally, actually, almost never happened. So if you ever see me and recognize me, say hello. But anyway, it's actually fun for me. But what happens is, like, he started telling me the story that he actually got in one of our courses early on, started doing land deals, and then realized that he wanted to get a even higher success rate. And so he is a data guy. So he developed his own software about really honing in on the best kind of customers. Is that right? Fred, first of all, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. I appreciate you having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. And yeah, I did recognize you, right? And if you remember, I signed up for your courses because my wife found you and Michelle online talking about what you guys have done and what you do. And she shared it with me. And, like most of us and our spouses, we don't always like to be told something. And I thought, they're full of it. This cannot work. But I couldn't tell my wife that. I had to do it, right? I was like, this guy, there's no way he's giving this stuff away. He's got to be selling snake oil. So I signed up and I did it and I followed the steps and I listened and I learned and I thought to myself, I'm going to prove my wife wrong that this Jack Bosch is not putting a good product out there. And I, like usual, was wrong. And that's how I got into land flipping. And it was a life-changing moment for me because up until that time, I had worked in corporations, right? And this was the first time I'd really done something on my own. And having your energy and your tips and the way to do things and the coaching and the support made it possible. And then it led into where I am today. So when I walked up to you that in that conference, you know how you go to a conference and you look at someone's face and then you look at the badge, right? And the first name's printed. And so you look at the face and then, you go to shake hands and you go to the name, you're like, Jack, nice to meet you. My name's Fred. And then I looked at the glasses and I looked at the last name. I was like, Jack Bosch. Wow. Right. And, we share some commonality because my wife is also from South America. And how I started doing this was because of you and Michelle. So it was a real moment for me. And, I still get, little goose pimples thinking about it. And the first thing I did was call my wife. I said, I met Jack Bosch. She's like, did you meet Michelle? I was like, no, she wasn't there. So yeah, it was a really nice moment. And our relationship has gone on from there.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I'm very glad we met at that day in person, and I love this story, and I'm super excited that you actually were proven wrong, of course, right? So because in that case, usually I wouldn't say that to another guy, but in this case, I'm glad because yeah, I mean, it is normal. The most normal thing in the world is to doubt, right? There's snake oil salesmen out there. There's a bunch of people who don't do what they say they do, and they're just they're full of crap, and so you got to be careful out there. And And you want to make sure that what you put your hard-earned time and money and effort and brain power and sweat into it actually is the real thing. So thank you to your wife. Thank you for actually trusting your wife and getting into it. So now the interesting though, this is not the end of it. This is not a testimonial kind of podcast right now. You then took this into a completely different area, quit your job, run your own company, but you're doing something different now. Tell us what you do right now.
Right. And as I tell, I mean, we're associated. We've been sponsoring your conferences and attending and speaking, and we're integrated with Investment Dominator. And it means a lot to us because we get new clients, but we associate with what you and Michelle are putting out and what LPG and Investment Dominator, your ethics and your approach to business of helping people. I mean, I see your energy when you're on the stage and you're talking to people. You genuinely care, right? And you want them to be successful. And we feel the same way. And when I was in land flipping, and still am, and I just couldn't get past the inefficiency and wastage. The talking heads were telling me mail, 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 more, and they're right. I was getting deal flow, but it was inherently inefficient, right? 10, 12,000, 15,000 mailers a month, getting deal flow, getting purchases, getting the whole process working. But every month I still got that credit card statement from my print house of what I owed, right? Yes, get one great deal and it pays for it. But I kept thinking, there's got to be a better way.
And hopefully at 10, 15,000 mailers, you got more than one deal, but yeah.
No, there was in the highlight or my best year was 72 deals, right? Now I stayed in the 5 to 18,000 entry price, purchase price, exit, tried in the 25 to 35. I had a couple big ones, but those are rare. You can't necessarily count on those, but they come when you've got that deal flow. It all changed when I sent a mailer to Sham, who's my partner in Reworked.ai. And he called me and I give him my pitch. I'm like, hey, I see your piece of land. I love it. I can be a cash purchaser. I'll get you in and out in 20 days. The whole thing that we're talking about. And he says, okay, time out. Full disclosure, I'm not selling this piece of land, but I keep getting these mailers. What is this about? So I walked him through the whole process. And he said, but there's got to be a better way to determine who you're mailing to. And I remember my exact words. I said, if someone could come up with something that I could use that would save me mailers and keep my deal flow, I would love it. He said, I'm a computer engineer, a data scientist. Let's talk about this. So we spent 3 or 4 months texting back and forth, walking him through the ideas. We got together in person, and fast forward 2.5 years later, we put together, first it was reworked.rei.com. We've since rebranded to reworked.ai, but you hit the nail right on the head, Jack. We enhanced the data to allow people to have anywhere between 7 and 10 times savings on their mailers while maintaining their deal flow or scaling, right? Someone's got a certain amount of money that they've allocated for the next 3 to 4 months for their mailers, and they're expecting to get 3, 4 deals a month. Well, we're saying you can get 6 to 7 deals a month and put the same number of mailers on the street, but have your inquiry rates go up by twice, have your deals go up by twice, and you're spending the same amount of money for your mailers. It's just the same technology, the same concept that's in our phones and all of the other technology to predict who is going to sell you a property off market below retail. That's what Betty does.
And that is obviously a game changer because if you can, within the data, identify, like we always say, like in our strategies, like we have figured out how to find people that don't want their properties anymore. Well, there's a few of them, for example, that are like the lowest hanging fruit in our experience without using your data is people that perhaps owe property taxes. Like always, like we noticed that, by the way, that's how we started our method in the first place. We started with basically going to tax lien and tax deed auctions and realizing that there was properties, particularly in the deed auctions, there was property coming up for sale where somebody hasn't paid property taxes for 5 years. And so they obviously, either they passed away and the heirs don't want it, or they just simply lost interest in the property and just don't want it so much that they even stop paying property taxes. It's almost like somebody raises a flag and says, I don't want this anymore.
Buy me.
Here, come take it. The only thing is that nobody, at least at the time, today it's more common, nobody at the time would actually go look for tax delinquent data because it wasn't easily available. Most of the data services didn't have it. And nobody would go there and basically go and simply take those properties and or get a list of them and contact those owners directly. So we started that in the land space and really kind of like as the only ones in the country. And we started getting nice amount of deals, but it wasn't that much scalable because in most counties, you pick a small county in Texas, there might only be 400 properties that are tax delinquent. And not every one of them is going to be willing to let that property go at 30, 40 cents on the dollar. So some just simply forgot to pay property taxes, but they love their piece of land and they'll pay it a little bit later. So we got deals, but then we realized beyond that, there's all this blue ocean of properties where people have paid property taxes, but where we're still, nobody's going after them. It's land. Most people run off their houses. And within that, we identified like out-of-state owners and a couple of other kind of things that gave us a nice edge. And we developed a nice list of criteria that allowed us to do 5,000 deals. But you have taken that now to a completely different level. So what are some of the things that you guys look at programmatically, of course, that determines if somebody's more interested or not? And how do you communicate that back to your customers? I think you use a score system. I know you use a score system, but I want you to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so when Sham and I first sat down, I had the data for the last 3.5 years of what I've been mailing, my inquiries and my deals. I thought for sure that the information that was there was enough to predict who would be a seller, who would have ascribed zero to no value to a property. What we quickly discovered was, number one, I didn't have enough data. And number two, there wasn't enough personal information about the owner. Because this is not about the property, right? Jack, you may buy a landlocked property, somebody else may buy marshland. It doesn't matter. That's up to the individual investor to determine they want to buy infill lots. This is about trying to understand and predict what's going on in the mind of the owner when they get that mailer. So we had to go out, and this was the hardest part of putting this company together and getting this data. We're getting things, age range, income range, credit score range. Did the credit score move in the last 3 months? Marital status, children, properties owned, equity, cars, membership, subscription. In real estate, we're getting up to 26 demographic data points. So someone uploads a list of 5,000 properties. The first thing that Betty does is she triangulates on the name and the mailing address to make sure she has the right Jack Bosch that lives at 123 Main Street. Once she's sure she has the right Jack Bosch at that address, and if there's been any changes in the address, she updates that. Then she goes out and she's pulling the information about Jack Bosch, right? As much as she can get. She creates a scatter plot of what Jack Bosch's life looks like. And she compares it to the other 30 million lines of data that she's seen. The more similar that scatter plot looks to people who have already sold off-market below retail properties, the higher the score. This is predicting their behavior. This is machine learning. We're not running large language models. We're not Chat GPT. Machine learning has been around since 1940 to predict behavior, predict the next word, predict what people are thinking. And the reason that Betty has been so successful is two things. It's the augmented data, right? We append the data that people upload, and she's looked at 37 million records, right? And, we've had people say, hey, I've got 500,000 records with my deals and inquiries in there. Can I put those in there to make it better? It's a proverbial drop in a bucket. So by looking at that information, she's able to make a prediction that this person is more likely to do a deal. She doesn't tell people where the needle is. She just says, it's not over here. So of those 5,000 properties you were going to action, 2,822, don't waste the time. Don't put a mailer. Don't give them to your cold callers. They're not going to do a deal with action those. And that's where the savings comes in.
So Betty, yes, and you gave her a name, is actually your AI system, right? Basically, it's your automatic computer-based program. It's not literally Betty, which I imagine being like middle-aged with glasses and a perm. Like, it's not Betty sitting there trying to do this with 35 million records. It's It's a computer program.
People would think that we've rehearsed this, but Betty, the reason Betty's priced the way she is, and the reason Betty can do it between 45 minutes to 4 hours is because it's algorithms, right? It's all hosted on the cloud. It's all AWS. The time between 45 minutes to 4 hours is not because there's a warehouse in Manila of people doing background checks. It's because she's running APIs to our data providers to get this information, right? So Betty came about because initially we were calling her Betty the bot. That was an idea that we had, but then our marketing people that we were contracting with at the time said, don't call it a bot. People hate bots. So the name stuck, but you're right. It is algorithms, right? It is computing processing power, looking at reams and reams of data. It's the same thing that you would do, or any other land investor or any other property investor, if they had all the information on John Doe and all of the components of that person's life to say, yeah, I think this person would probably be a seller I should reach out to. But you don't have the data and you want to do it for 5,000, you want to do it for 8,000, and you want it done, in a couple hours so you can get to work, you can get your mailers out there, and you can maybe go play around a golf or jump in the pool or go for a walk or do something else rather than sitting in front of a computer for 3 hours or 3 days to try to scrub property that may or may not be effective.
Yeah. So in essence, what you guys are doing is it's allowing the average person out there to tap into this and get a bigger bang for the buck by just paying you guys a small fee to be able to run all these algorithmic kind of things and figure out if that person is really potentially more interested in selling. And again, you're using things like demographics, you're using income development, you're using credit score development, you're using things. So yeah, if somebody's credit score just plummeted, chances are because they just lost something or got a foreclosure or something like that. And guess what? They need money. So they have this piece of land. They're probably interested in selling that piece of land.
Right.
And many other factors that come into thing. And I know from because we have actually integrated you guys into our software and into our investment dominator software. And this and the feedback, I mean, we run it, but also the feedback from our students is really, really good. So when somebody utilizes you and they don't use our software, how does that typically work? Do they just send you an Excel spreadsheet? Do they upload something? Because if they use our software, I mean, they simply press a button and it opens the interface and they upload the records, and then it's a very nicely integrated solution. But if somebody doesn't work with us, how does that work? Of course, if you're interested, go to investmentdominator.com, sign up for our software in the land space, which is a full end-to-end CRM. But how does that work?
So let's talk about the latter case, right? Reworked.ai, you go in, you create an account. You're going to pick your plan, right? We have monthly plans. There's no commitment. You can cancel and pause anytime. You can do as a pay as you go and just say, I want to buy 1,000 records. I want to buy 2,000 records. Once you get the credit in the system, you're going to upload file. Betty's going to ask you a series of questions. I think there's about 7 questions now to get a sense for what you're looking to do: single family, multifamily, land, commercial. And then when she has your investment profile, you're going to have that click button, browse your computer, take the file, Excel, CSV. Betty's going to say, I got it. I'll be back in touch. She may ask you saying, hey, I don't understand what these 3 columns are. Can you help me column map? Because she needs to know what's in the column. It's pretty rare and it's pretty intuitive. You just drag and drop. But once she has it, she says, I've got it. And then you can see the progression of the file on your dashboard, and you'll get an email. A lot of our customers will upload it at the end of the day. They'll get an email overnight saying your file's done, come back and get it. If you're using Investment Dominator, which a lot of our customers are, all you need to do is create an account with Reworked, pick your subscription, whatever you're going to do. And then when you're on the Investment Dominator, you just sign in once with the key, and then you go to the button, Get Betty, right? And Investment Dominator pushes it over to Reworked. Betty does her thing, and Reworked pushes it back to Investment Dominator, so it shows up with your Betty score. Now you can make decisions about what you want to do with this file based on these predictive scores.
Very nice. Beautiful. Yes. So let's talk about the Betty score. what score, what's your range, and what do you recommend people do with that score?
So it goes from 435, 425 to like minus 220. Betty suggests to action anything with a score of 100 and above. The reason she's chosen 100 is because she's extremely conservative. And land investors, land flippers don't want to miss a deal because there could be a diamond hiding out there. There could be that $20,000 purchase that you sell for
Yeah,
100. There could be
absolutely.
100,000. So she doesn't want anything to be missed. So she recommends over 100, go. Usually, historically, it's about 53% of the data that's in the file that she recommends to action. It's important to note someone could upload an 8,000 line file and Betty says to send it to 6,000. Or you upload an 8,000 file and she says send it to 2,000. And people are like, Fred, you said 53%. She's not grading on a curve. She's not looking at this owner versus this owner and saying, I've got to give Jack 53%. She's doing the prediction based on the merit of the individual. So for me, in my land flipping business, I send 220, 240 and above because I am very protective of my time, right? And I'm okay with missing a deal. I'm okay. I want to get the inquiry to deal ratio 1 to 1. Never going to happen, but I'm okay just going with the upper top portion. And, my deal flow has decreased significantly over the last 2 years, and I'm okay with that. But we have clients that will take the top 5%, they'll send hard offers on those, they'll do research. Then the next portion, they'll send a higher priced envelope, and then they'll do just a basic neutral letter. Some of our clients will even text the bottom half of the list because the cost for the transaction is so small. There's 100 different ways to do it, but what Betty gives our clients is the ability to make decisions. It takes data and makes it actionable information so you can be smart about your outreach campaigns.
Beautiful. Now, how long did it take you to develop this? Because again, we met, I don't know when we met, like a year and a half ago or so, and you had already your company, you were already a vendor and had your booth there and so on. But in what time frame did it all happen? And what has it done to your own deals in terms of like the effectiveness of them? And yeah, you mentioned that you're almost wanting to get to the 1 to 1 kind of ratio. But let's talk about that. Like what happened before and what happened afterwards.
Right. So the first 6 to 8 months in 22, when we were putting the algorithms together, we really needed to get we needed data, right? So we put some messages out to people that we knew and signed NDAs and looked at their past history, put the data together. We were getting results all over the board, right? Partly because some of the data was older, partly because the algorithms and the data we were using to append wasn't what we needed. So it was a bit of a slog for about 9 to 10 months to get the results that we felt comfortable charging for, right? If someone's going to pay, they want it to work and they want to be subjectively and objectively believe in the product. So September 1st of this year, in a couple days, will be our 2 year anniversary commercially live for land flipping. We started with land. We eventually branched into single family, multifamily, and commercial. Now we're in solar, insurance, mortgages. So it's the same concept of getting information and using machine learning to predict who's going to be the likely purchaser of your product. So it started slow. We got a couple podcasts, got the word out, and now 98% of our real estate customers come in through word of mouth. They go, "Hey, I heard about you from this. I heard about you from this person. This person said it works." They're, as we said in the beginning, it's tough to trust all these people on the internet because I'm selling a product, right? You're selling a product. But when your friend and someone else in a masterclass says, I use it and it works, then they're off to the races. So the first 9 months was tough, but the last year and a half has been just wonderful. And I enjoy going to your conferences, talking to investors, talking to people that are starting, talking to people that are well into their journey and how they can either scale or trim back their costs. And I'm always learning something. That's what's so fun about it.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're listening this, if you want to come to our conference, you can still get a couple of tickets. We still have a few available at landflippinglive.com or landprofitlive. I'm sorry,
So,
landprofitlive.com.
Jack, can I make sure that people who are
Yeah,
listening who don't know or haven't been there, you guys call it a conference, right? And it
yeah,
is, but in my opinion, it's more than that, right? A conference is you go in, you listen a little bit, you wander around, you talk to the vendors and the booths, and you're just taking it all in. What you guys put on and what you put on is a class, right? This is a workshop. Come on in, get your notebook. We're going to talk land flipping. We're going to talk tax. We're going to talk legal strategies. We're going to talk subject, and you guys are just this inundation of information. And I always get the look of people when they come out, they're just like, everyone's like, they're all fired up, but they're getting so much content, so much ways to do it, and you've got coaches there that are there available for them to break it down and guide them on their path if they're starting. So it's a conference, but it's a learning experience.
Yeah,
it's
that is
intense.
true. So, and by the way, the link is landprofitlive.com, landprofitlive.com. So go get yourself a ticket. But you're right. This is like when I attend, I rarely attend other people's conferences because what you usually get, particularly if it's an educator like we are too, you get like hype, motivational speaker, hype, yay, go do it, and then they sell you coaching or something like that. What we do is literally we walk through. Typically, this conference has been, or this class has really only been open for those that already have one of our courses. Because it's like I'm taking what I assume people already know, and we're doing a deep dive. So I'm on stage 70-80% of the time. The other 20-30%, it's either our tax strategies, or is somebody that talks about advanced land flipping strategies. Some of our coaches talk about how they scale their business to hundreds of deals and so on. But most of the time, I'm a lot on the stage. And it's all what I'm spending my day on is going deep on every single aspect of it. But again, as you said, it's about setting up your company the right way. It's about tax strategy. It's about scaling your business. It's about advanced strategies. It's about lead generation. It's about follow up. And it's fully jam packed with real estate knowledge from A to Z, because typically 90% of the people attending are already our customers. And so it's in a way more of a fulfillment event. So if you want to go to an event that listening here, the audience, if you want to go to an event where you get no fluff, but literally where it's just content, then make sure you go to Land Profit Live and register for that. And Fred, you're going to be there. You're going to
We are going to be
there
there.
and talking to people. Obviously, Fred is going to have a chance to also speak for like a few minutes up on stage, explaining a little bit closer to the audience what he's doing. All our vendors are able to do that, and we don't have 35 vendors. We have like 3 or 4 vendors. And who are those vendors? They're people that really aligned with us, like land.com, landwatch.com, landflip.com. These are all websites that get millions of visitors where you can put your land for sale. But guess what? They're a vendor. You help people with to take their data up a lot and get even better results on their land things. You're going to be there. Our Investment Dominator software has a booth, and there might be 1 or 2 more people that have a vendor booth there, and they're all auxiliary to the service. They really help you make your land flipping experience and success even better and more profitable and faster.
And it's intimate, right?
Yeah.
People have time to talk, and I always come away very drained, very tired, right? Because it's a long weekend. But I'm invigorated once I get a good night's sleep because people are fired up, right? And they're not fired up because somebody's given a bunch of hype, like you said, because they're actually learning, right? They're not just coming away going, now what do I do, right? I'm all fired up. I could run through that wall, but how, right? You guys break it down, and it's really, really exciting.
It's a different kind of thing. Yes, absolutely. Great. So now that we know what you do, that the audience knows you do, how do they get a hold of you? How can they sign up for your services? How can they find out more? Again, even whether you do land flipping or house flipping, you now cover all the industries. You mentioned multifamily, commercial, like. Go through that one more time. What are the different industries that you cover? And then how can people get a hold of you?
Right. So as I said, we started in land flipping. We've added single family, multifamily because of the basic components are the same, commercial. I want to make sure I notate that Betty's able to peer inside LLCs, Incs, trust, and give insight to that as well. We've since branched out into the solar installer world. We've also been working with several insurance companies. there is no limit to what we're trying to do, right? Because 80 billion mailers go out a year by the USPS, and 98% of them are sent dumb. It's spray and pray. It's every door direct. It's just, and that's what we're trying to fix. So if you want to get a hold of us, it's reworked.ai, right? On the site, you can set up a 30-minute call with myself or one of the team. We can talk about your individual questions. We can walk you through the process. If there's questions about integrating with Investment Dominator, we can help with that. We want to be high touch, right? We want to make sure people are comfortable. We always want to make sure that it's working. If for some reason someone signs up, spends some money, and they don't see the results that we're talking about, you can send me an email, fred@rework.ai, and say, Fred, it didn't work. I spent $289. I ran 8,000 lines. I didn't see a doubling. Well, I'm going to want to have a conversation with you, but ultimately, we're going to give you your money back because we're not here to be successful on a $289 from John Doe or Mary Jane. We want our customers to be there every month. And just like you always say, Jack, when your customers are successful, then we can be successful. And that's the beauty of it. And that's why we feel so strongly about what Jack and Michelle are doing, because it's genuinely helping people and making a successful business. What's wrong with that?
Nothing, absolutely. It's a win-win-win-win-win for everyone involved. It's like, so wonderful. So with that said, let's wrap this up. Thank you very much for being here with us, Fred. And to everyone out there, right, make sure you give us that 5-star review. If you listen to this on iTunes, if you're watching it on YouTube or anywhere else, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, share it with your friends. If you're in real estate, again, Reworked.ai is the website. You go there, you set up a call. And again, if you're interested in our live event, because we're publishing with this very, very quickly, even before the live event, it's coming up September 13th to the 15th of in Denver, Colorado. You go to landprofitlive.com, right? Landprofitlive.com, with or without the S after the profit, doesn't matter. Landprofit or Landprofits Live, either way gets you there. Get yourself a ticket, and I'll see you there. Thank you very much.
See you at the conference. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.